the Trump presidency. And the contrast on display tonight was so stark. I mean, those lights that are just shooting out from the Lincoln Memorial along the reflecting pool, it's like almost extensions of Joe Biden's arms embracing America. It was a moment where the new president came to town and sort of convened the country in this moment of remembrance, outstretching his arms.
My pen away. This first executive order is a memorandum for the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development to redress our nation's and the federal government's history of discriminatory housing practices and policies.
I'll circle back if there's more I can share with you. But I'll circle back with you if there's more to convey. I'll have to just circle back with you. We can circle back with. I'm happy to circle back with you. I can circle back. I will have to circle back on that one. That's an excellent question. Oh, such an important question. We will circle back with you, and we'll circle back with you. It's an interesting question, but we'll circle back. I'm happy to circle back, but I'll have to circle back with you on it. It's a good question, but we'll circle back with you on this today. We will certainly circle back with you more directly.
We're not going to circle back. We're just going to come straight forward. Okay, we're in the occupied zone that is the nation's capital. You're in the war room. It's Wednesday, the 27th of January, the year of our Lord, 2021. With a podcast now significantly over 30 million downloads. Business Insider, when you start doing your analysis, make sure you check what the downloads say. It's public information. John Fredericks Radio Network nationwide. Announcement on John Fredericks. John Fredericks actually buying a station in Atlanta. We'll be live in Atlanta every day from 10 to noon and then from 5 in the afternoon to 6, starting, I think, February 15th. Also on Real America's Voice, Dish Channel 219, Comcast Channel 113, on the Bird, and on cable. Also the streaming service of Real America's Voice, the network of the Trump revolution. G News, GTV throughout the world, simulcast in Mandarin, of course, Rumble, Gab, everything, every platform out there. Want people in the live chat today and on hashtag War and Pandemic. We're going to take you from the border of Juarez with a live report from Michael Yan to Wall Street about we're going to take you to the land of the shorts on Wall Street, where a populist revolt is blowing up some of the biggest hedge funds in the world. Also to Beijing to talk about the Wuhan virus with Bill Gertz, who 1 year ago today on this show talked about the Wuhan lab controlled by the People's Liberation Army. He was mocked, ridiculed, and really eviscerated by the Washington Post shortly thereafter. Guess what? Bill Gertz was right. Washington Post, mainstream media wrong. We'll have all of that. We're going to be out in Minneapolis with the Lindell Recovery Network, the people that run that for addicts, to make sure they get their lives back through a God-centered, Christian-centered recovery program that are trying to be destroyed now by the mainstream media as they come after Mike Lindell, MyPillow, and his crusade to get the word out on voter fraud of this election. In studio is Terry Schilling, the American Principles Project, the one group out there that focuses on the American family and as the American family as the centerpiece of American society. And we've got Raheem Kassam. Before we get to Michael Yan, we're going to try to get Mike McCormick back on here. Mike McCormick nailed it yesterday. He said, hey, if the speech is under 15 minutes, you'll know he's right on the glass. We started for our podcast and radio audience. The silence you heard there was Biden stumbling around for a pen. I mean, this is embarrassing. He's clearly not, if you go back, and everybody should take 15 minutes and watch the speech, he is absolutely, even the ad-lib lines are on the glass. I mean, I know from working with President Trump and others what people do with teleprompters. Terry, Raheem, jump in here. And the nervous tick, I didn't like the nervous tick, but this shows she is not prepared. And one of the reasons they're not prepared, they don't have a point of view on these subjects, right? They're trying to hide what they're real, but they don't have a point of view they think they can sell even to the mainstream media. Guys?
I say yesterday, was an analogy for the rest of the administration, right? It was an analogy for the vacuum of information at the very top of the Biden regime and the way that information is not just not filtering down to the American public and even the press in the room, and you can see the eyes of the reporters in the room when they see just the gibberish that Jen Psaki comes out with. By the way, it's not just the and it's not just circle back. She was asked a very detailed question about Venezuela yesterday in the press car. I watched the whole thing. She was asked a very detailed thing. She goes to her notepad and she goes, and then she reads verbatim, Venezuela is a country that has 7 people in the country. We are looking very closely at Venezuela.
Interagency process.
Yeah, and then she goes, and I refer you to the State Department for any further. Hey, listen, this isn't the little leagues anymore, okay? And the American public are not the little leagues. You can't just fob them off. Here's the thing. The other detail that we missed here. I watched that Biden clip of the pen and the whole press conference several times to try and get a greater understanding of what was going on here. He actually wasn't looking for a pen. At first, it looked like he was looking for a pen, and there were pens in front of him, right? He wasn't looking for a pen. He was trying to put his pen in his inside pocket and couldn't make the pocket with the pen. Then he decides, I'm going to put it in my trouser pocket instead. That's even worse than looking for a pen and not being able to find it. But he couldn't hook a pen into his pocket. That's what we're looking at here. That's what we're playing with. And by the way, the clip from later on, which we got for later on in the show as well, of him talking about the 200 million doses of the vaccine will service 300 Americans. What?
Yeah, no, it's that disconnect there. We got to play that later. Terry?
So, look, I have a different theory on all of this. I think that the purpose of the Biden administration is to calm everything down. I think they want us to sleep. You look at what the media did under the last 4 years of the Trump presidency. They created daily hysteria to rile the people up and make sure that there was no peace at all. And what they want to do, what the media wants to do, and what the Biden administration wants to do is they want everything to be peaceful. They want the American people, those people in the middle, to go back to sleep and think that everything is well in the world. And that's why they're not giving these solid answers that the American people really are demanding.
I want to go now to the border. We've had a big victory yesterday. Make sure people understand. They came through, and the centerpiece of their motion was, we told you, they're going to chase rabbits on climate change and other things that are a little ephemeral. They'll have importance later on. But the major thing they were coming through was the amnesty program for 25 million illegal aliens, which would change the voting population of Arizona, Texas, Florida. They could make those not just competitive, they could dominate those, although I think working class Hispanics are essentially with President Trump. I want to go now, and ladies and gentlemen, you got to understand, this is a massive, massive victory. The amnesty bill is dead. They're not going to be able to put forward an amnesty bill. What they're going to do is now they've got to break it into pieces. Part of that is the filibuster going away, and this is Kristen Sinema from Arizona, understanding that bill would have put her out of business in passing it. Okay, so these are inextricably linked. You've had we had the Attorney General Ken Paxton on from Texas yesterday. Big victory in court, getting the TRO on this radical program to stop the deportation of criminal aliens out of here. So it's just one after the other. We're having these. Remember, victory begets victory. I want to go now to Michael Yan, the great combat correspondent who's been in Afghanistan and Iraq for many, many years, but then went to Hong Kong to follow the situation there, did great reporting for us, came back to Seattle and Portland to really embed and see what was going on with Antifa in those cities, came to Washington, D.C., and now is on the border, actually on the wall that we built out there on the border in El Paso, right across from Juarez. Michael, what is we're hearing from the Border Patrol relationships we have that the border is more porous than ever, that people are coming across nonstop. The Border Patrol is under incredible pressure. What are you seeing out there now that you're in El Paso?
Right. That's accurate. In fact, there's a Border Patrolman about 30 meters from me right here, 20 meters. And we build the wall right here. They're not getting across this part. This part is too hard for them to cross. So this part, the Border Patrol like quite a lot. And so it forces the border crossers to go over this mountain behind me. And they funnel into this area, which makes it easier for them to catch. It makes it easier for Border Patrol to catch. And so the wall is working. This part of the wall is working very well. We just need about 2,000 more miles of this. We build the wall people donated and built here on private property. But, I was out here the other night. The moon is quite bright now, and they cross more on a full moon or a bright moon. And so we saw the Border Patrol trying to chase somebody down about 30, 45 meters from here. And then we also saw them catch on the Mexican side because they were just 3 feet from us on another section about a mile from here. We saw them actually detain some Cubans and Hondurans. We know that that's what they were because they told us, right? Because we could talk with the Mexican authorities right across the wall. You could touch them. So yeah, we went into Juarez yesterday again, found a hotel where some Cubans are staying, and we talked with them for quite a while. Actually, the Cubans want us to return people because the people that are trying to come in legally get stopped, and they were there for a year and a half staying in this hotel. They can't get in because all the people that come in illegally are in line first. And so the Cubans that we talked with for quite a while yesterday want us to return the people that are in detention.
What did people think? One of the first things Biden did was to basically stop all construction of the wall that President Trump had. What's the feeling of Border Patrol and citizens you're talking about down on the border because Trump's won so much of the Hispanic working class vote down there about border security? When you talk to Border Patrol and you talk to citizens down there, what's their feeling about Biden stopping immediately the wall?
Border Patrol straight up angry. I mean, they're under no uncertain terms. I wish I could put on video some of the things that they're telling us. It's pretty incredible. I mean, Border Patrol does not even want to abide by any of these nonsense regulations from Biden's border that's just going to open it up for criminality, sex trafficking of children, drug trafficking galore. It's unbelievable what he's trying to set into motion here. Border Patrol know what's happening, and they do not want to do this. They want to side with their own country, which is the United States.
What about the stopping of deportations, particularly deportations of criminal aliens? What are folks, the Border Patrol and citizens down there, what are the thoughts of that, of Biden's radical agenda?
No, they said they can get around that. They're returning them anyway. They're returning them right now. They said it's nonsense that they're just being released on the streets because there's legal ways around it to do it legally to just return them. We saw a Title 42 return the other day about 3 days ago when we were coming across the border. Title 42 is when somebody is just detained right at the border and sent right back. And actually, Todd Bensman, that I was with at the time, Todd asked the Border Patrol agents, is this a Title 42? They claimed yes. He asked where the person was from. Was he from Mexico? They said no, he's not from Mexico, but would not say where he's from. Many of the people crossing here are from places like, North Africa, even Afghanistan, many places like that, Cuba.
Michael, we got about a minute real quickly. Are you telling me there's a revolt among the Border Patrol agents? They're saying, hey, we'll find a way to deport these guys legally around this executive order. Is that what you're telling us?
Straight up revolt. Let's use that word because that's exactly what it is. Absolutely.
Michael Yon. Michael, how can people get to you to get more? I know you're going to be down there. I want people to be following you to see all the information. Michael Yon's now at the border. He's down there where we built a wall, built the magnificent wall straight up the mountain in El Paso, across from Juarez, to stop the cartels. This was the number one place the cartels went to. The reason we built it there is the Border Patrol said, hey, this is where we need help. Michael, what's your social media coordinates so people can follow you during the day?
I'm on Patreon, and my last name is Y-O-N, Yankee Oscar November, Michael Yon, Y-O-N. There's the wall right there, by the way. I publish on Patreon almost every day, not today because we were out so late last night doing border issues, and we're going to be doing the same today. It's going to be a very bright moon tonight, and that's when people cross a lot. So we're going to be out watching people cross and making photos.
We're going to have Yon, try to have him on every show while he's down there. Michael Yon, thank you very much. You're a patriot, great combat correspondent. Michael Yon at the border. Look, this border crisis is going to increase because of what the feckless nature of the Biden administration and the bad optics, the bad signaling they're doing, just going to cause more human tragedy. Remember, this is a tragic situation down at the border, but you can sort it out with dramatic action. We're going to take a short commercial break. Return with Terry Schilling, Mike McCormick, and Raheem Kassam in a minute.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, welcome back. We're going to play. By the way, we're bringing Mike McCormick now, the author of Biden Unauthorized, the book. McCormick called it yesterday. He said, look, the guy's got 50% cognitive decline. I was at like 20. He's at 50. He knows him better up close and personal. He was the stenographer over at the White House and made trips with Biden, particularly to China. He called it yesterday. He said, look, if this thing's Joe Biden could go on forever. That was his big thing. Remember, on the Foreign Relations Committee, he would talk for 45 minutes to an hour opening the hearings. He said Biden can talk about race, these stories he's got, these anecdotes from Delaware. Was it from Cool Pop? Who's my guy with the, remember the?
Corn Pop?
Corn Pop. He's got Corn Pop. He's got all the stories.
I like
right?
Cool Pop.
It's cool. No, it's Corn Pop. That's son of Corn
cool.
Pop is Cool Pop. You've got, he can go on forever. If he sticks under 15 minutes, you tell him he is tightly wired. McCormick, give us your assessment. We're going to also play as you're talking the thing about the pen, which is bizarro. What is your assessment for yesterday's speech?
Well, first of all, they had it in a special location. It was pool coverage. The only microphone in the room was right in front of the president. So all the reporters are sitting there. If they're going to yell out a question, it's going to be off mic. And then he starts signing these things, and he can't even get the pen in his pocket. I mean, that's what's going on with him. He's sitting there fumbling away. Like, how does he work his suit? How many times do you have to put a pen in your pocket to figure out how it works? He goes to plan B and shoves it in his side pocket. It just seems like he's got this methodical way of doing it. It's almost like he's a Stepford president. He's this robotic guy. He's going through the motions. They wrote the speech. The speech sounded to me like it was written by Barack Obama's people, for Barack Obama's people, and Biden was just reading it. And basically, he's like the ventriloquist dummy of the administration that used to be. You didn't see any of that.
Just to make sure you're not picking on him, you didn't see any. You said earlier if he has any of the personal flourishes, if he has any of the personal stories, if he goes off script and starts talking and it'll take 45 minutes, then you know he's all there. If it's just on the glass, that shows you that he's tightly controlled by the puppet masters beforehand. So you're doubling down on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And, the thing is, he did have a kind of a quip as he was leaving with the reporter. That's kind of the Joe Biden that I remember. But it was off mic. It was from a distance. You couldn't really hear the reporter's question clearly. So to me, they're really trying to restrict access of the press to get him, where the press can sort of get him in these moments of vulnerability. They're trying to make him seem like he's not vulnerable. He is extremely vulnerable.
Okay, Mike, the book is Biden Unauthorized. You got to get it if you want the inside story of Biden, particularly the timelines in Ukraine and China are pretty eye-opening of the corruption, the people that the mainstream media suppressed. Mike, what should be the next thing people look for? If you want to get, our audience always likes to be ahead of the pack here. Tell us what they should be looking for. You had a called shot on this talk yesterday on race. What's the next thing people should be looking for?
Well, I mean, in the book, so you were just talking to Michael Young down at the border. He's talking about Hondurans coming across. In the book, there's a whole chapter about how Joe Biden set up this program called the Alliance for Prosperity, 2014 to 2016, with the three Northern Triangle countries, El Salvador, Honduras, Guatemala.
Frontline nations.
He sent $500 million to Honduras while the brother of their president was smuggling cocaine in America at cartel levels. The guy was arrested in 2018. A year ago, October 2019, he was convicted for 200,000 kilos of cocaine from 2004 to 2018. Is what the guy did. Biden knew about it. The DEA was investigating this guy the whole time. He sent this money down into Honduras for promoting government security. The president that he was sending the money to, Juan Orlando Hernandez, he's an unindicted co-conspirator in the case that was the conviction of his brother, Tony Hernandez.
Okay.
That's why Honduras is coming up. That's where these migrants are coming.
We're going to get all into this Central America, the tragedy down there, and what's happening coming up to the border in the days and weeks ahead. That's where we got Michael Young on the border. The book is Biden Unauthorized. The author is Mike McCormick. Mike, thank you for joining us. Want everybody that is interested in Joe Biden and the incompetence and the corruption, take a look at this book. Very powerful. And by the way, give us your website. If you go to the website, 10% of it goes to help law enforcement. What's the website? Don't buy it from Amazon. What's the website?
Thanks, Steve. The website is www.joebidenunauthorized.com. And 10% goes to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund. Because Joe Biden is not a law enforcement. He's just not a back of law enforcement anymore. He doesn't have their back.
Mike, thank you very much for joining us. Okay, I want to pivot to I want to let's hold the Biden thing till we'll get the other clip later. I want to talk about the impeachment of the president and Lindsey Graham. Where are the voices? Where is the right? I mean, we're hammering this every day and we're of the belief that the president's got to come forward and present his full case of the receipts, state by state, of what happened. Yesterday, I think you see the Lindsey Graham strategy trying to work. Oh, there's only 5 guys. But what they're not saying is that the Democrats are not going to be able to be kept on the chain. If you look at the MSNBC special with Ari Melber the other night that Boris Epstein was on, they're out to basically accuse Trump of being an accessory to murder.
That's exactly right. This isn't about going after Trump either. This is about going after everyone that supports him and future candidates who pose a threat to the system. That's what's most dangerous. And last week I was talking with our president at American Principles Project, Frank Cannon. I said, Frank, no one is standing up and holding Republicans accountable for this impeachment stuff. If we don't hold them accountable and they don't hear from voters, you could get to that 17 senator threshold. I mean, things were at fever pitch. And Frank said, we got to do something. And so we launched this petition, stopimpeachment.us, and we're the only conservative group doing it. And our entire...
That can't be right. Raheem,
No.
is that right? Is the only conservative group out there trying to fight this?
If there are others, I haven't seen them.
Which is egregious to me. I mean, we should be part of a chorus of conservative organizations and leaders fighting this. But what we want to do is we want to hold every Republican accountable. These guys aren't afraid of the Trump supporters. They aren't worried about having to face the Trump supporters when it comes to their primary. Liz Cheney, by the way, voted for impeachment of President Trump when that state, Wyoming, voted for President Trump 70% to 30%. That is embarrassing. That's egregious. It's absurd.
Another county in Wyoming, by the way, last night voted unanimously to censure her and I think also to have her resign. On the 6th of February, they're having the state party conference. I was talking to people last night. They believe they're overwhelmingly going to pass not just a censure of Liz Cheney, but a demand that she resigns the House seat. What we need to see is that a leadership. Why is she still in leadership? There's supposed to be 107 people that have already signed or already committed to vote to remove her from leadership. Why is Kevin McCarthy and these guys up there not moving on taking Liz Cheney? How can Liz Cheney possibly be part of leadership when overwhelmingly there's overwhelming support for President Trump?
Because it's not about Trump. What it is about is Liz Cheney probably brings in a ton of money for the Republican Party. On top of that, the Republican Party is still obsessed with this identity politics. Oh, we need more women in leadership. We need more, African Americans and you name the identity group, they want to go for it, which is just Marxism, right? It's just Bolshevism. And they need to get rid of that. We just need to focus on the best people for the job. And guess what will happen? You'll get naturally really talented women coming into these positions.
And
of
African Americans, you see it all the time. Some of the best conservatives we got are from the minority communities, right? So go back to. I want everybody to. How do they get to this site? What do they have to do?
It's so easy. It's stopimpeachment.us. Sign the petition. We're going to deliver this and make sure that everyone in the Republican Party knows how many people signed this petition. And all the money that we raise here is going to be used to hold Republicans accountable and make sure that their voters know exactly where they stand.
So give me accountability. But this morning my phone blew up from people out in Nebraska, and they said, you're not spending enough time outing Ben Sasse. That Ben Sasse is terrible. He's betrayed the people in Nebraska. How does this site start to hold people accountable?
By getting involved in elections. Campaigns and elections are a primary tool that President Trump, by the way, took advantage of to change the Republican Party. We have to hold these people accountable, and it starts by primaries.
Isn't Lindsey?
By the way, hold on. By the way, and fixing elections, fixing the system.
Exactly
right?
Right?
That's critical.
But Lindsey Graham, when you sit there and they're talking to the president, Lindsey Graham's strategy is working. 5 guys stepped up. You saw all night on Fox. There's not going to be he's already been impeached. There's not going to be a conviction because you don't have the 17. If you don't say the magic words, if you don't say election fraud, if you just are a good boy and stay in the corner, right, we'll get you through this quickly. And so Lindsey Graham's strategy yesterday worked. That's what they're showing, saying, look, all the Republicans out there. What they haven't said is the struggle session you're going to have to get through to get to that vote to have the esoteric conversation about due process. And you saw this at MSNBC the other night. They're coming for blood, Mr. Raheem Kassam.
Why do we want to get through this quickly? Well, who does that benefit? You know, the Democrats want to show the nation that while the nation is hurting and while America's enemies are coalescing at the border, and we have news stories coming out about 33% likelihoods of people developing mental illness after having coronavirus, the weapon from the Chinese Communist Party. While all of this is going on and more, a lot more, by the way, around the country. I'm actually embarrassed of the fact that we don't even cover local news across the country anymore, right? It's all national news. The Democrats wanted to take up congressional time doing this, so let's do it. And you can own it, and you can own the time.
What
you
they're
can
saying,
own the
but
cost.
what the counter argument is that by doing this, you'll so upset the Republican Senate if you bring up election fraud and go through the states, they'll convict you. That you'll actually be convicted.
Exactly.
You're convicted and you won't be able to run for public office again. So do you?
Well, that's the litmus test.
Do you buy that?
But that's brilliant.
Do you buy that? Do you buy that? Guys have the stones to sit there and convict him.
I don't think so either, but I want to know the people who are threatening to do that, because that's the litmus test. The litmus test for every single Republican candidate from now on should be, was there election fraud in 2020? If the answer is no, you're out. You're done. You're not even getting to the primary.
And you're going to be out anyway, because if you can't fix the elections, if we can't have free and fair elections, you're out.
Okay, short break. We're going to come back. American Principles Project, talk about this ridiculous crushing of women's sports by Biden.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, we're back here with the most powerful audience in all global media. That is you at home right now, listening wherever you are, listening, watching on the podcast, on radio, on Rumble, with America's Voice, everywhere. You guys are making a difference. And here's most important, the institutions in New York City and Washington, D.C. know you're making a difference. The calls I get every day from people trying to monetize it, like book publishers, to just activists. People all over the world want to get on the show now to make sure they get in front of this audience and have a minute to present their case. I want to go to something. I am long the American Principles Project, and here's why. Terry Schilling and the crowd over there are workers. This is not, and they have focused on the American family as the building block of civic society. And here's what's so powerful. With the diaspora, the Chinese audience we have, they say the same thing. The family's the centerpiece, and that's what the CCP is always trying to destroy and break up. The family is the centerpiece of human civilization, and that's why we're so proud to have American Principles Project on here and to actually talk about this. Now, I want to go to the part of the look. Biden talks about unity, but it's a radical agenda. And the first thing he came out of the box is this thing with girls' sports. I just want to bring in my daughter, Maureen Bannon, as an example. We're just Grundoons, but Mo, come in. And this is what it takes a young girl to be able to get a position to get a Division I scholarship. And people have to understand this is the ticket out to working class whites, to Hispanics, to African Americans, these young girls on the West Coast throughout the nation that play sports, play soccer, play volleyball, play basketball. This is run track and field. This is their ability to get to a Division I school, to get an education. They have to dedicate their lives to this. Mo, talk about what did you have to do to actually be eligible to even be considered by West Point and other schools for a scholarship.
So I started playing volleyball in the 4th grade, and at that time you could play multiple sports and then figure out what sport you wanted to play if you wanted to continue on to college. I chose volleyball. So it took countless hours. Multiple sports that I played, I had to give up in order to play varsity volleyball through high school. And then in order to be seen, you have to play club volleyball. So you have to dedicate hours upon hours, weekends. Your whole life revolves around that sport, and it takes everything inside of you to make it to a Division I.
And in Southern California, when you played
school.
club and played high school volleyball and playing up to grade school, there are literally tens of thousands of girls, and it's a selection process. But it is a year-round. It's almost a profession. You dedicate your life at the age of 11 and 12 to these sports, correct?
Correct. And the parents, not only the women that are involved in these sports, but the parents, because it takes hours upon hours shuttling to practices, to tournaments. And especially with volleyball, it's very competitive in Southern California. You have to put as much time as you can into it to make it to a good club. And a good club will get you recognized by a good school, but that requires weekends upon weekends of tournaments and everything else, which takes time away for the parents too.
Okay, hang on for a second. This is the 10,000 hours of Malcolm Gladwell to be proficient. But I saw it. I basically, became a volleyball dad with her mom, and we went around everywhere. And it's great. The families are having fun, enjoying it. But the kids are dedicated to get a look. And that look gets you a ticket. That ticket gets you a ticket out. It gets you a ticket to a better life because now you go to school, and it's free to the parents.
Yep.
This is what's critical. And that is hundreds of thousands of dollars. These are kids. We would see these kids get recruited by great schools back east, by schools, Ivy League schools, Ivy equivalent schools. We saw, and it's an amazing process. Now, with one stroke of the pen, and Terry, jump in here. We had 20,000 people the other day on the show. I think you're up to 70,000. I need everybody in this audience that is so inclined. We're going to give you the thing to support the Americans Principles Project in this confrontation with the Biden administration on this one topic. And this is a subject that we will bring in college-educated women who are dedicating their lives to their daughters right now to make sure their daughters get a chance of playing sports like this. And not just playing sports, it's the camaraderie that's built. It's the teamwork that's built. Things that, for my sisters, although my dad was a great athlete, my older brother was a great athlete, didn't really have the opportunity because it really didn't exist in that time. It exists today. What is the Biden administration trying to do? How do we combat it? And how can this audience participate?
What the Biden administration is trying to do here is completely reverse the purpose and intent of Title IX funding for women. So Title IX funding came about from the civil rights fight to give women equal access and opportunities in education. It was funding, it was rules that allowed for women to have their own private sports leagues. We all know the biology here. Men have a natural advantage over women when it comes to athletics. And so if you don't have those distinctions and if it's not segregated on the basis of sex when it comes to sports, you're just going to have a minor league team of boys.
Hang on. I want to make sure that there's a tweet out this morning. There's a tweet out this morning. Hang on for a second. There's a tweet this morning saying that there's a woman who's the four-time multiple gold medal sprinter. She's the bolt of women sprinting. But they're 200 or 300 high school boys who could beat her right now.
Right, exactly.
And that's why it's not fair. And you had that great commercial, the great spot they took off. Tell us about the spot.
So Facebook censored us. We ran this amazing sports ad about women's sports, and we starts off with these four girls at the starting line. They are running, and the gun blows, and they start sprinting. And then at the very last second, a boy comes out of nowhere and beats the girls. And it's all about how these girls work so hard every day, just like your daughter Mo, and it's just being robbed of them. And Joe Biden, who prides himself as a champion of women, which really is just code when he says that he supports killing babies, he took all these opportunities away from women on day one.
Mo, I'm sorry about cutting you off. By the way, it's not easy being Steve Bannon's daughter.
Oh, no,
what do you got to say?
I just wanted to add that not only are we fighting for the sports that we already have, women are still fighting to get sports that they're training on recognized by Division I schools.
Yeah, exactly.
Like West Point, until I was up there in 2017 and 18, didn't have a women's lacrosse team. Women's lacrosse is huge on the East Coast, and they're fighting to get that in there. And by the stroke of the pen, now you're going to allow men that
it's unbelievable
identify as a female, allow them into the sport. It's not. We need to fight for biological women.
So why is there not more of an outcry by the progressive women on the left about this? Because this Title IX situation has been one of the central things of moving the women's equality forward, right? Because you get the teamwork, you get the camaraderie, right? Why is there not more of an outcry? Why is it Terry Schilling in the right that's all over this?
So there is a movement on the left attacking this transgender lobby. So the transgender lobby was really smart because they teamed up with the gay rights groups, and now they're one and the same. And it's very difficult to separate them. But there's starting to become a backlash from like the Women's Liberation Front. They're on the front lines. They're testifying in state legislatures. They're going to testify in front of Congress about this egregious assault on their opportunities. And by the way, Wolf, the Women's Liberation Front, they're opposing all the bathroom stuff too because they viewed segregated bathrooms on the basis of sex as a movement of progress for them, getting their own private facilities, and now they're going to go back on that.
What is your program? For people to come to your site, what are you actually going to do? It's an executive order I know has any states filed now in court? I know Paxton is doing the deportation stuff. Legally, are any of the states taking this on?
So I'm actually going to be going down to Texas to meet with Paxton. Paxton is a rising star. I mean, he's already been a star, but he's going to be an MVP for the conservative movement.
Amen. That's what I said. Yes, this guy's a rising star.
He's not afraid of anything. I'm going to be meeting with him. They've got a great team down there. I've met with him before, but we're going to be working with Raga and all the attorneys.
No states have filed TROs right now?
Not yet.
Why? How come we did it on deportations right away? We've done it for other things. Why have they not done it for this?
Because I haven't talked to him yet. I just gotta pick up.
Is that what it takes? They don't know enough about this, or are they afraid?
They're not here. No. They're not afraid. This women's sports issue, it's not an issue that they're afraid of, especially at the AG level. The AGs take on much more aggressive fights because it's just jurisprudence. It's just legal arguments. So they're not at the political forefronts of all this. They're not afraid of it. What it is they're not hearing from their voters enough. And so
why is that?
Because it's still, look, the women's sports issue, it's important for girl dads like you and I, Steve. Like, you never forget the first time your daughter sinks a basket, right? It's a great moment. But it's still a niche thing, right? Like, it's because we've been beaten into submission.
How can it be a niche thing when it's
I know 50%.
Every little girl plays soccer. Every little girl plays softball, or at least for a year, up until they're 10 or 12 or 13 years old, right?
Right. And I look. And the other thing is, I think this has been branded too much.
Are you not doing your job? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, I'm doing my job. No, this is branded way too much towards women in Olympics, when really we need to focus more on the high school athletes, the college athletes, because that's the biggest point of this. This is the opportunities that get them out of poverty.
Before I turn back to Schilling, Mo, how bone crushing would it be to have a guy show up and start playing, a high school guy start playing in these volleyball leagues and defeating some of the teams that you played for, or some of the great girls you played with?
I mean, I think it would be crushing. The women's volleyball team, when I was there, we practiced against the guys, and it was good practice. But to have one of those guys on our team, there's no comparison. They can jump higher. We're biologically different, so there's no comparison. It's not fair. Women need to be biologically women in the sport. Men need to stay in their sport. And to address the comment about it, at the Olympic and college level, there are recognition about transgender athletes in those sports, but I agree, we do need to hit it at the high school level. It needs to start at the high school level.
Okay, so tell me what she's saying. High school, she agrees with you. Tell me how people. I'd actually say take it down smaller to the swarm ball, which is soccer. When they sign up, I want everybody. We got it in the live stream. I want to put it up on the site. Schilling's going to be here for the entire show. Everybody out there needs to get on top of this one. We owe it to these young girls to have their backs on this. Okay, this is outrageous. This is just it's so unfair and so cruel that we have to stop this. What action are you going to take besides talking to AGs?
So we got to get the AGs to sue. That's first up. But we have to prevent the Equality Act from becoming law, because the Equality Act would make Biden's executive order and those new rules that they're going to come up with from his executive order permanent.
Where does that? The Equality Act is actually the legislation that would make it part of the law. What instead of executive order? Where does that stand?
That is, it hasn't been introduced in the House or the Senate yet. They're looking at a vote as late as March. And what I'm really concerned about is that there are currently 5 Republicans that are right now in the House who voted for the Equality Act in Congress last year.
To make it bipartisan?
To make it bipartisan, yeah. So it's mostly the New York Republicans, John Katko,
Yep.
Tom Reed, and Elise Stefanik.
Yep.
We have to hold those people accountable. They have to know that they are going to be held accountable by all these girl dads of female athletes, of young women. We're going to hold them accountable at the polls next go around.
Mo, thank you very much for coming on here and sharing that. I know it was a big part of your life, and following her around and seeing all this was powerful. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
I just want to address it needs to be not only girl dads, but boy dads as well.
Wow.
We need that boy dads to be on this fight as well.
Going to be a pretty good politician there. Okay, Mo Bannon. And by the way,
Luckily, Terry's both.
Do you have a social media handle that we can give out so the haters can jump in here?
I do. My Instagram is mbannon2, and my Twitter is @Maureen_Bannon.
Okay, Captain Bannon, thank you very much. Terry, give it once again before we go to break. Where do people go? Everybody in this audience that wants to have the back of a little girl and to support them and they're playing sports, how can you help?
go to savewomensports.us. And by the way, we work hand in hand with another really great group that has a similar domain, savewomensports.com. It's led by this woman, Beth Stelzer. She stood up against all of these left-wing radicals. And a lot of the, someone just texted me earlier about why there hasn't been more outrage from the left on this. It's because they were the first ones canceled. So you have women like Beth Stelzer who are on the front lines on SaveWomenSports.com, and it's
we want to get her out too. Okay, short commercial break. We'll come back with Regnery Press, the great conservative publisher, Tom Spence, the publisher, in a minute.
Spread the word on, let's take down the CCP. The bullet is like a little longer, and you will surrender.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, we love this audience. We love the engine room of the War Room. People are already blowing my phone up with things. In Tucson, Arizona this weekend, a biological male dominates women's cycling competition. A 36-year-old biological male dominated the women's division of the El Toro de Tucson last weekend, annual cycling, one of the most prestigious cycling competitions out in the Southwest, dominated by some guy who came at the last second, identify as a woman. He dominates. I mean, this is absurd. We can't let this go on. This is going to break the spirit of all these great women athletes that are out there really at the forefront. You want social change? Women's athletics, I tell you, has led to tremendous positive social change in this country. Terry.
So I just want to thank your listeners again. And when Steve says he has the most powerful audience in the world, he's not exaggerating. We have had, so before the show, we had over 70,000 people sign our SaveWomenSports.us petition.
And 20,000 out of your last hit the day you were here. We had 20,000.
Yeah, 20,000 just from that.
That's our first cut, yeah.
So we launched the StopImpeachment.us petition today. We had 1,200 people sign it within the first minute. I'm not exaggerating. The first minute, we had 1,200 people sign it. You guys really are the most powerful audience in the world.
All we do every day is lay out the information, introduce people like you. This audience takes it from there. They're activists. They're force multipliers. Greatest audience in all of media in the world, and we got the muscle to show it. I want to bring in now Tom Spence from the great publisher Regnery, which is the publisher of so many great conservative titles. You stepped up heroically and took on the Josh Hawley book when his publisher walked away from it. Tell us what your thought process there, and what is Regnery going to do to make this book the #1 bestseller it so rightly deserves?
Well, I don't know how heroic we were, but we did jump on it. As your audience probably knows, Simon & Schuster canceled Senator Hawley's book, which is about the power of big tech, within hours of the incursion at the Capitol. And their statement explaining why they did that, which was a study in vagueness, suggested that Senator Hawley was responsible in some way for the invasion of the Capitol, which I think is quite unreasonable. I think Simon
Why do you think it's unreasonable?
Because first of all, he immediately and forcefully condemned the incursion, and I don't think there's any evidence that he saw that. I mean, I wasn't there. I know tensions were high. Maybe people could have been more prudent, less prudent. I don't know, but I don't think Senator Hawley had any intention of encouraging an invasion of the Capitol. He was exercising his legal and constitutional responsibility to challenge the electoral vote.
Tom, let me ask you this question. So you've picked up this thing. People want to know, number one.
It's not a thing, it's a book.
Right. A book is a thing, by the way. No,
yours
mine was definitely a thing.
Yours
Mine was a thing. Tom was actually the editor of my book, so he knows what a thing my book was.
My condolences.
Tom, I want to understand from you guys, what's the risk here? Because you have been actually, it was my book with you guys, along with, I think it was Dinesh D'Souza's, back when they refused to put us in the New York Times bestseller list. They were heavily fixing and rigging that list, even though we had sold enough copies to get into those lists. So what risk are you taking as a company, if any, at this point, because they've shunned you so much in the publishing world so far today? And are you able as a publisher to get this book into stores after the way Simon & Schuster have treated Josh Hawley?
Yeah. So the deck is stacked against conservative books and conservative publishers in the book business, and I don't want to be whining. We still sell our books, but that's the case. As the story of the New York Times bestseller list is a good example of that. At the same time, controversy sells books; it gets publicity. So we took this book because we think that there's that it will sell well, as well as the fact that it's a good book, it's an important book, it ought to be published. The risks are, I think, a little different now than they were even a short time ago. Previously, we would worry about our authors, again, not making a bestseller list, which their book ought to be on, or the occasional independent bookstore run by an old hippie who doesn't like Regnery books, is not going to carry it, whatnot. The landscape has changed, I think. I don't know how much we're going to find out. But when Amazon's web services canceled Parler right after Senator Hawley's book was canceled, I think everybody in the publishing world took notice, particularly conservatives. And we thought, well, that's interesting. If they can cancel their web hosting with Parler, why couldn't they just not carry our books?
Right.
Either a particular title or any of our books. Amazon has not suggested to us in any way that that's what they're going to do.
But they don't, do they? They don't give prior warning, Tom. That's right, yeah. So one thing the problem we have run into them in the past is being blocked from doing Amazon ads for certain books. I know you all have been talking about the women's athletics and the transgender issue. We published a book last year by Abigail Schreier on the transgender subject, and Amazon would not let us, or Amazon's computers would not let us do advertising for that on Amazon.
Wow.
Which Amazon ads basically mean when somebody searches for a book, a whole bunch of other books show up at the top of the page. That's the result of advertising based on search terms. They won't let us do that for certain books.
Tom, we got a bulk, but give us the link to Regnery. When's the book going to come out, and when can people start getting access to it?
The book will be published on May 4th, and wherever books are sold, as they used to say, but in particular, you can order it at regnery.com, regnery.com.
Okay, we'll put it up in the next second. I want to get the picture up there. Tom Spence, the publisher of Regnery, we want to have you back on for a deeper conversation. We have a book-buying audience, and we want to hear from you, the landscape of the book industry, why it's changed. We'll have a deeper conversation hopefully later in the week or next week. Tom Spence, a publisher of Regnery, doing the Lord's work over there. Great publisher. Thank you, sir. Short commercial break. We're going to go to Wuhan, the lab, Bill Gertz, the hero that identified it in the very first days. Next on War and Pandemic.